So I'm... Yeah, I was aware I was going to be coming after David and Charlie, and that they were going to have quite a lot of intense information to give to you. So I'm trying to, I guess, build what I'm saying around that slightly. So it's going to be a little bit whistle-stop, but if there's anything that doesn't seem to join up, whatever, ask me at the end or at the coffee break or lunch or something, and we'll kind of make sure things are all tidied up. So... public research data, publication impact, what, why, how. So to paraphrase a very well-known question, what do researchers do for us? I was just thinking about all the things again. It's already come up in this session, I think several times, is they apply for grants, they do research, they publish, they accrue citations, they have to budget and manage what they're doing. They also have to plan, they have to delegate, they have to write, and they have to teach, and they have to do administration. They have to have subject expertise, they have to innovate in the way that they think, they have to be very up-to-date with the technology and the software and the hardware that goes with being proficient and cutting edge in their research. They have to be able to manage politics. That's perhaps internal to their institution. It could be to do with their subject area. It could be external. You know, thinking of people like the climate science people. There can be elements of physical risk as well. I think particularly my area in publishing has been mainly in earth and environmental sciences. And I found it recently, one of my editors nearly drowned twice during his oceanography PhD. So, it's a huge amount of skills and aptitudes that people have to be able to manage in order to be effective researchers. They have to really love it. They have to have an aptitude, and they have to get all this. They have to basically learn how to optimize their behaviour in order to be able to be at all effective. And I said at the beginning of this session, David, I think, gave a really good summation of historically what you've been called on to do is get grant money, do research, publish, it'll be measured on citations, and it goes around like that. But of course now, what with technology and other progressions in the way that research is going, they're being called on to take a lot more things into account, and the landscape's becoming very disrupted from that point of view. So, and again, in the first session, we looked a bit at the rationale for openness, and certainly at a macro level, it makes complete sense. If research and research outputs are open and transparent, then they're inclusive, they can be tested. More things can be done with them. New disciplines can emerge, new kinds of research inquiries can be done. We know what we know better. Things can be monetised. But does this make sense from the researcher's point of view? I mean, what happens? I mean, basically the picture. I think I think researchers are having to deal with this incredibly disrupted landscape from their point of view, as well as I think publishers having to deal with a disrupted landscape from our point of view. The funding mechanisms, how your institution gets funded, where you get your funding from, that keeps changing. Mandates for getting grants, again, keep changing. Do you have, in the UK, for instance, you have to get an ORCID, you have to provide data management plans, health and safety audits, see the drowning reference earlier, freedom of information requests. All these things need to be managed. The competition for resources, and that could be time, it could be PhD students, it could be money. That's all becoming increasingly stiff, and the pressure to provide evidence of impact without necessarily being told exactly how you do that is also providing increased pressure on people. So basically, there's a huge amount of extra work being lumped on these people who already, as you see, have to have a huge number of plates, if you like, spinning all at the same time. So, publish your data. I mean, research data, has already emerged, is a potential sort of impact game changer. It's developing as a field. There's a lot of discussion about it amongst the funders and institutions and so forth. But it's also, again, you publish your data. It's a very simple thing to say. But from the practical researcher point of view, it's like, well, when? Do I do it as I've got the data, or as do I link it to my publication? If it's a long-term observational data set, do I kind of publish it several times? Does it have to be in a higher education repository? Do I have to work out where it goes? What standards? Do I add the code? It kind of goes on. And again, I think it makes the decisions to act very difficult ones. And again, this is a set of people for whom a certain set of behaviours has been sort of optimised in order to build being a very competitive careers. There've been quite a few surveys done in recent years. I think we heard a little bit about some of them. I think there's also the Belmont Forum is another sort of earth sciences project, which has surveyed people about sharing data and asking who's doing it, why do you do it, why do you not do it. Research Data Canada is also in the process of surveying and trying to build policies. Nearly everybody thinks that data should be shared, but then when you drill down to that, it means other people should share their data with me rather than the other way around. It's a bit of a double think. I think there's also, again, an imbalance or a disconnect between the greater good. Like, I understand it makes sense in terms of my subject discipline or the country or policy, but how does that relate to my career? How does that help me if I share my data? And what are the consequences of not complying? And again, how do I ensure consistency? Make sure I'm complying with the mandates. And I think what has tended to happen is the people at the early end of their career, who again are perhaps, if you like, the born digitals, and they can start seeing the reason for doing this. They I suppose can see that there's ways of changing the way that you do the science, of accessing things that couldn't be accessed before. They can build their reputation on things that haven't yet been done. Again, the people towards the end of their career who've achieved their tenure, who have their reputation, perhaps achieved in the traditional way. Again, they can often be quite open to doing this. I mean, because they have the time. They can be thinking in terms of, this will benefit my subject. This is my legacy, if you like. I think data can often represent that to people. But it's the people in the middle of their careers. It's the people who are currently the PIs, who are training the PhD students, and who are chasing the grants and the tenure, who are the tough nuts to crack. I mean, they're the ones who are often running the science, if you like, but they're also the ones who just don't have that space to be able to balance the requirements of the subject, the greater good, with their own needs. And also to date, there's been very little evidence of consequences of not doing it. It's kind of like peer review, I think, has been historically, which is quite a sort of hidden activity. And again, having been a journal editor, journal publisher, talking to editors, there are people who will never review, but will contribute many papers. And in a sense, there's never been an overt way of outing these people. I mean, they can get, if you like, sort of internally kind of grey listed by a particular journal, but there's no sort of black mark against them in terms of reputation. And again, I think with research data, it's the thing about you share with me, I don't need to share with you. People haven't to date really lost out. I mean, there have been a few cases, but largely, if you don't share, nothing happens to you. EPSRC, for instance, has brought in a mandate, so that's the Engineering Physical Sciences Research Council UK, I'm sure you all know. And they are, so basically you are supposed to put your data into an institutional or other repository within a certain space of time, post receiving your grant. And they have also indicated that they will be dipsticking, as in going through randomly checking that people are actually doing this. And that's supposed to be happening now. But I've been searching, again, if anyone has come across any evidence of what the dipsticking actually consisted of, how much is happening, who's doing it, what they've been finding. I haven't. And again, I think I was talking to a company recently which is providing some of the archive space for UK institutional repositories. And they're going, we're all sitting there waiting for this inundation of data as the mandate deadline came through, and nothing happened. Everyone sort of ducked, expecting the thunderclap, and absolutely nothing happened. And I think people are still feeling that they don't need to act, that it isn't important for them. And as such, as Charlie said, they just don't see that it merits their time. It's not that they just can't prioritise it. It doesn't help to do it, and it doesn't hurt them to not do it. So I just wanted to think about some of the things again that publishers and others, groups of people are doing. I think what comes through is at the moment the landscape is extremely fragmented. Different funders, different publishing houses, different journals all have different mandates or instructions or opinions about how things should happen. I think if we, as various groups, can try and build consistency in the message, that will help. So, for instance, Centre for Open Science has got its TOPS guidelines on open science behaviour. If they're under examination, that feels like a sensible set of principles. More organisations could sign up, and then in a sense we're all pointing in the same direction, and the message to the researchers becomes clearer. So this is the way to do it. Data citations principles is I think quite a good example of a joint group of stakeholders from different backgrounds pulling together a set of principles which increasing numbers of other organisations are signing up to. The Resource Identification Initiative is a neuroscience initiative where a group of publishers, editors, researchers and societies got together and decided we are going to mandate resource identification, basically the registering of reagents in neuroscience publishing. So the several journals, sort of key journals in the field, wrote a combined editorial. So from now on, this is the policy, this is the registry that we need you to go to, these are the people who will help you, and it's mandated, this is the argument for it, this is how it will benefit neuroscience. And that happened about 18 months, 2 years ago, and it has taken off. And I think there were several probable key characteristics or factors that made it work. But I think a big part of it was the voices of the people, who had the carrots and the sticks. They described a specific, discrete thing. And they made it reasonably easy for people to do, and they made the argument is that we will all benefit, and this will benefit you. So that felt quite powerful, I think. And just generally, I think the argument is to try and make the thing that you're asking people to do a little bit easier and give them a little bit more, which I think is also your message. And I've got JISC up there actually because JISC has been running a number of small projects called Data Spring, which are currently in sort of phase 2, phase 3, and they're around supporting researchers, building tools and services to just build that capacity again. And actually, I'm doing a project with them, which is around an app which supports people to get credit for their data set. A couple of things I was mentioning, things like project credit. Which again helps people think about standard. There's a standard set of attributions or contributions you could be making to a paper, and therefore enabling people to be listed. Let's think. That's enough, isn't it? Yeah. So, thank you.